I'm John D. Villarreal here, and tonight we're going to talk about something very important, and I've been thinking about this for a long time. We're going to talk about trying to respond to everybody. And I know this is maybe sort of a unique idea. I don't know. I think this is something that is very, very important. And here's why I think it's important. There's a lot of, I don't want to put any place or people or anything on blast, but I've seen more and more these days, particularly in business, just people would ghost. People have talked about that of, hey, I applied to this job and I never heard back from them. The recruiter ghosted me, or the company, or you had a great meeting with someone and maybe you sent an email and it seemed like there was something going to happen and they never got back to you. Or maybe yourself, maybe for whatever reason, someone emailed you and it seemed they expected you were going to get back to them and you didn't get back to them. And I think there's a number of reasons for this, and I want to try to unpack that. But I also want to talk about why, in my opinion, that is not the right way to go, and that's not doing you any favors. I also want to go through sort of the excuses, if you will, for not getting back to people, like I'm too busy, or we're going to go through them very quickly. It's not going to be a long video, but I think this is a very important video, and it's part of the things I'm going to start talking about more and more in terms of business and communication and that whole lane. And it's just so vital, in my opinion, so important. So, and this is my perception, but I do seem that, like, I've seen a lot more talked about on this on LinkedIn, YouTube, out there on the web, and this seems to be something that is relatively prevalent and maybe increasing potentially. This is all my personal opinion. First of all my personal opinion only, not alleged facts, not casting aspersions. All my personal opinion only. Please check all the disclaimers. Now, first of all, let's say for whatever reason someone emailed you. You could be a recruiter, a CEO, a founder, a VC. Whatever, right? It doesn't matter what the profession is. And you didn't respond. So let's kind of go through the reasons for not responding. And let me start with my premise and my assumption. My assumption and my premise is that communication is super important. That's really one of the main things that you have in business and really in life, right? That it's just so vital. So let's talk about some of the excuses. I'm too busy. Okay. If you weren't, here's the thing. It doesn't take long to respond to someone. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. If you had the time to take the original conversation, if you had and this is the thing that really is, I think, interesting. I've had people that will talk to me, or I'll do something. Oh my goodness, we need to talk right now after I do something big. And I listen, it's funny because my sort of life and career, I've been very successful at many different things, and and I want to be very kind about this, but you'll hear people, I don't have time, or I don't have time the whole year, or I'm booked up the whole year, or I'm booked up, or I'm so busy. When I used to work, when I was at a law firm, or I was a venture capitalist, or particularly when I had when I was on a major, when I was on a network, or I had a big radio show, nobody was busy. It was amazing. They'd get back to you so quickly. Or you had a big conference, some of the biggest names, they immediately get back to you. Here's my cell phone number, John. Oh yeah, so believe me, when I hear I'm too busy, I question that, right? And that's the thing, again, about communication, I think we have to be very careful with how we message things, particularly in business and in life, really, but definitely in business. When you say I'm too busy or I'm booked up, I think sometimes the underlying message might convey not that you're too busy, but I'm too busy for you, right? And that's not the message that you want to convey. And if sometimes legitimately you are too busy. There's some people that, I can only imagine, right? If there is a reason why, I would be speaking with a CEO of a multinational or the head of state or something like that, they probably are too busy. They could be booked up the entire year, right? And I'm just making up a hypothetical here. But there's a way to message something, or there's a way to handle something, or, I don't have time right now. I do want to talk to you. Can you talk to my assistant, my aide, my colleague, whatever, or when can we connect, or can we do a summary? There's a way to sort of, we talk so much about in venture capital and in business about scaling and getting, multipliers and flywheel effects. There's a way to do that with communication too. And I've seen some of the best that are ridiculously busy. I've been in Silicon Valley, right? I've seen it. I've seen some of the best that are able to do that. And when you can communicate and you can, the more you can sort of directly connect with people, the better that it is. And as my old boss used to say, right, Mario Rosati from Wilson Sonsini, legend, right, absolute legend in the Valley, always leave them smiling. And what that meant is, listen, the Valley and venture at that time, certainly a very small place. So, you could be here and someone else is here. This is in your mind. I think that all these perceptions are crazy anyway, but I mean, let's just, and I don't believe in this, but I'm just trying to make a point. So this is, I don't know, maybe metaphorical or something like that. In a certain industry, in a certain career, maybe you think you're here and someone's here. Well, guess what? Things can change very rapidly. And I think the point of his story and my interpretation was, you don't know who you're going to, so this is another saying, you don't know who you're going to see on the way up and the way down, right? Or things can change extremely rapidly. And also, as a person, what do you want to be known for? What do you want your brand to be, right? Don't you want your brand to be someone that is responsive, authentic, honest, and communicative? I mean, I think that's super, super important to be able to communicate with your colleagues, with potential partners, with customers, with your team. Hyper important, in my opinion. So the whole thing of I'm too busy, I don't buy that. You weren't too busy when you wanted X, Y, and Z, or you weren't too busy to take that first. If you're not too busy, but this is particularly important after a meeting or after anything like that. If you were not too busy to take a first meeting, you're never too busy to follow up. That's what I believe, right? And listen, I'm not perfect. I tried, sometimes I was like, I get too busy. We all get busy with what we're doing in the day, and things can happen and things can change. But I really try, and I think people hopefully would state that, I really try to get back to everybody with something. It could be a text, it could be an email, it could be a LinkedIn post, whatever it is. I try to always respond. And you also learn that in sales, always have the last word, right? That doesn't mean like right or wrong or anything. It's not about that. It's about just being able to have that last piece of communication, that last touch with the customer, with the colleague, with whatever, and keep the conversation going, keep the momentum. That's what you want to do. You want to keep the conversation going always, right? Because and I'm going to get to that. And I made a mistake here. I mean, recently, and I'll talk about that. And it really reaffirmed. Like, I've been wanting to do this video for a while, but it's like, wow, I really need to do this video, right? So I don't buy the I'm too busy part at all. Right, I don't buy that at all, and think of how much. I mean, and this is also a sort of a and then maybe an overused phrase, but it's true. I mean, think of how much time we all waste, watching TV or on social media or whatever. You're never too busy. So I don't believe that. I don't believe in that in general. There's always specific cases. There's always anecdotes. It definitely depends on the time frame, but in general, we're not too busy, right? Now, here's where I think most of this fits in. You don't want to speak further for whatever reason. And there's different, I think, main reasons to this, and I want to unpack that. Maybe you don't know what to say. They asked you something and, hey, can you do this X, Y, and Z charity event? Or maybe can you give me a job or whatever? Can you help me move? Who knows, right? It could be anything. So for whatever reason, you don't know what to say. You don't want to say no. You don't want to seem rude, so you don't say anything, right? Definitely not. And first of all, a lot of this applies to business and personal, but I'm focusing on business. I think that's very, those are two different spheres to analyze. This is, for simplicity's sake, and we're broadcasting on LinkedIn and YouTube. We're going to focus this on business communication, right? So for whatever reason, you don't want to speak further. You don't know what to say, or you don't want to work with someone, Or maybe nowadays, and again, we're going to just I don't want to get into this, but I'm just going to touch on it. Maybe you don't like their politics or something. Things are so super partisan right now, super political, and I think people are over that. Or you don't think for whatever reason you can be honest with how you feel. Like, I don't like that idea, or I don't think your product's right for our company. Whatever it is, right? All of these reasons can be sort of bundled up into, you don't know what to say. I don't want to, you don't want to speak further. And that's not a good reason to not communicate further. That's maybe the worst reason to not communicate further. And I'll explain that. Why burn a bridge, right? Why would you want to burn a bridge? Because think about, you always, and this is the thing, one of the things you learn in sales, very quickly, you have to put yourself in the position, of the customer or the other person. If you want to be, people talking now about empathy and how important, okay, the number one rule of empathy is you have to understand how the other person feels. You have to put yourself in their position. So if you emailed someone, let's say you thought you had a great meeting, and they said, hey, follow up with an email. That sounds great. That sounds great, John. Send me an email. And this has happened to me a lot in South Florida. It's interesting down here. But I also think things are evolving, things are changing, and things are always changing, right? And you always have to find a way, and that's okay. I love challenges. I love to find a different way. I love to figure things out. And also, I'm very comfortable with that. I'm very used to that because I'm so used to being, I'll put it this way. And this goes back to Silicon Valley and being disruptive, right? Or being a national champion, right? Or just being the best at different things, having a national TV show co-host. If you want to be dramatically better, you need to be dramatically different. So it's almost like being, contrarian on Wall Street. If everyone's doing this, or if this is if this is the bar for average, I want to be here. I want to be different. I want to be dramatically different, dramatically better. That's what I strive to do, and I think a lot of people strive to do that. So if you're in that position now, and you wrote that email, and then you're waiting. They're supposed to get back to you. They said they get back to you the next day. They don't. Crickets. They said they were supposed to get back. Then it's now all of a sudden. Let's say this was Tuesday. You thought they were going to hear from them Wednesday, and now it's Thursday and Friday. Now it's next Monday. How do you feel, right? I mean, we all have been there. Everybody's been there. Everybody's been on both sides of this. And I don't know, there's two sides, probably many different sides. So how does that feel? That doesn't feel great, right? So now let's say something changes and you get the big promotion, you get the big job, or your company's doing whatever. And I've seen this particularly in automotive. Right? And I'm not putting any specific industry or automotive on blast, but someone for whatever, there's a lot of change in that industry. And, someone used to be running a dealership, or they were a manager or something, they were in charge of some kind of maybe acquisition or buying or hiring, whatever it is. For whatever reason, they change jobs, or they lose their job, or something happens. And then it's like, not too many people, you don't see too many responses. Then like 2, 3 months, 4 months goes by, and maybe they had something where they were supposed to talk to people, or maybe they reached out to people and, hey, can you help me? Do you have any ideas? Whatever. And all of a sudden now they have a big new job. Maybe it's bigger than the one before, and that's not uncommon either. And all of a sudden, the vendors, you're so great. Everyone, it's so great. So if you're that person, how do you feel? Now, again, this is totally hypothetical. I'm not talking any specifics. I'm just making a hypothetical example to visualize some of this. So now if you're that person, how do you feel, right? How do you feel about those contacts, those vendors? I mean, and so that doesn't mean that you always have to do everything for everyone. But I think it just think about how you would want to be treated, and how you would want to be communicated with, and how you would want to respond, right? So it can, by not responding to people, it can have the effect of burning that business bridge, that relationship, that contact. That doesn't make any sense. And that goes back to what my old boss Mario used to say, always leave them smiling, because you don't know. I mean, first of all, it's not the right thing to do as a person to person, right? You have to treat everybody well and with respect and dignity and everything like that and correctly. But, secondly, it's terrible business. It's terrible business. I mean, that's the thing. Like this is what I don't understand. I mean, I'm a big free market person, right? In terms of, and that's a whole different, I've also studied a lot of law and economics. There's definitely cases for we need good government too. I don't want to get dragged into any of that. But basically, I'm all for freedom, liberty, equality for everyone in all cases, equal opportunity, all these types of things. It's extremely, very, very passionate about that. But it's also great as it's what you should do morally and ethically, in my opinion, as a human being. But it's also the best business. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, nothing else makes any sense to me. So all this stuff, it doesn't make any sense. That's absolutely with communication as well, right? You want to talk to people. So again, like I said, how does it feel when someone doesn't respond to you, right? So wouldn't you rather be honest but respond? Isn't that better? So okay, so John, it's easier said than done. Perfect. Let me give you an example. And this is all live, right? This is no net. This is just off I have a couple little bullet point notes here. And, it took me 5 minutes, and I'm just going with it. Great. Someone applied. One of my friends needs a job, and they're asking me for a job now, and I'm in a position where I can hire them. So listen, I'd love to help you. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, you don't fit this role right now, or I can't afford your salary, or whatever it is. But how can I help you? Can I look over your resume? Can I make some introductions? Can we talk about it later? I'll keep my eye out. Whatever it is, just respond, right? Just respond. Tell them what it is. If the answer is no, no's okay. No's totally fine. But how you say it, why you're saying it, you have to be, as long as I believe everybody can handle the truth. If it's honest, well, that's sort of redundant, but you know what I mean. Everyone can handle a message if it's honest and authentic. What's the truth? Kevin O'Leary was saying, we all know the saying, if you don't lie, you don't have to remember what you said, right? And I believe in radical honesty too, right? And so with kindness and politeness and ethics and morals and all that type of stuff. So just tell them that. Or hey, so-and-so wants to buy a product. I don't think that fits for us. This is what we're using. How about this? Can you do some research into, here's what we're using. Can you do some research and maybe tell me how your product's better? And let's circle back and have another conversation. That gives them a way to do some homework. It doesn't burden you with the time of that. I mean, obviously know what you're talking about. If they have a clearly better product at a better price, then why aren't you buying it, right? But, and again, this is hypothetical. I'm not telling anyone what to do. Everyone does whatever they want to do at their own risk. But, I'm giving you tactics. I'm giving you techniques. We're talking about ways you can work through things, ways you can finesse things, ways you can respond. Always engage, Or it could be as simple as this. I'm not sure about that. Let me think about that and let's reconnect, right? When's a good time next week, next month, whatever it is. It's fine. You can put something on pause. That's okay, but you've responded. You've shown them the respect to respond. You haven't ghosted them, right? Always keep them smiling. Always keep the door open. Nothing else makes any sense. It really doesn't, especially if you're a startup that needs all kinds of people, all kinds of help, all kinds of scaling. If you're a VC that wants deal flow, that wants the entrepreneurial community to, like you, think you're a good, fund, all that. I mean, everybody. Who doesn't need customers? Who doesn't need good word of mouth? Who doesn't need good buzz? Who doesn't need happy employees? I mean, this is internally within companies. This is everywhere. This applies to everybody in business. This is what I don't understand. This is so fundamental, so basic. We've got a chat right here. Let's talk about it. Oh, yes. Franco, appreciate you. Hey, listen, I'm doing this, and then I'm going to do a couple. I don't want to get to, because everything, this is its own thing, but I will do another live stream later. So also stay tuned for that. Appreciate you being there. Definitely appreciate that. Listen, let's go to the next step. The next step is, okay, the downside. So you can always respond. It's almost always, there's always the exception, right? So, but we don't want to dwell on that. It's almost always better to respond honestly, quickly, something, figure out a way to respond. It can be with an emoji, whatever. Just respond, even if you have to put it on pause, and then, deal with it later. See, things change. We've seen that. If the world's learned anything in the last 2 years, things change, and things can change dramatically very quickly. Now, and I'm a very, very big optimist. I always believe that, tomorrow has a chance to be better than today, and things are going to get better, and I believe in all that. The other thing I want to impress upon you is the downside of not responding is much higher than responding, in my opinion. And we're going to pick up speed here because I don't want this to be too long of a video here. And what do I mean by this? We talked about that there's almost no upside to not responding, right? There's almost no upside. What is the upside? Okay, you don't want to hire this person. You don't want to do business with them. You don't want to, buy their product, whatever it is. What's the upside to not respond? What if they change companies and now what if the startup founder now becomes a VC? What if the person who was a salesperson at a dealership now becomes a general manager at another dealership? What if they join the manufacturer? Now you need the manufacturer. What if they become an heir? I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on. You don't know what's going to happen. Or what if they tell someone else that is now that now you need? It doesn't make any sense. What's the upside? What's the upside? Oh, John, if I just don't say anything, maybe they'll go away and they'll forget about it and it'll be fine. Listen, there's almost no upside to not responding. There's exceptions, and it really kind of boils down. And this, I'm talking in business. It really kind of boils down into, for whatever reason, you don't feel like if someone's okay. Let me start with. I'll put that on pause because that's a little more detail. So I want to go, it's better to save it. The one exception may be like if you feel like this is a really negative situation somehow, maybe they've insulted you, or it just doesn't, it's not, it's a really negative situation and you don't feel like it's going to be able to lead to a positive. You can't navigate it, that maybe for whatever reason, it's just not, that you don't feel like continued engagement in any way can be positive, or you can kind of, even then, I keep thinking scenarios in my head. I'm willing to stipulate there's hypotheticals out there where it wouldn't make sense to engage, but almost always I'm going to find a way to say what I need to say, respectfully, and then step out. Right? It's so hard for me to try to imagine scenarios where you couldn't do that. So, but I'm sure there's some, and that's why I'm willing to stipulate that maybe that's a reason, right? The second reason would be that for whatever reason, you don't feel like you can respond in a professional way at that moment. You just got laid off. Your boss gave you bad news. You had a big, 7-figure deal that just went up in smoke. Whatever it is, right? You were counting on something. You moved across the country with your family for a job, and now somehow they can't onboard you. Whatever it is. So there's times where it may be, you may need an hour, a day, a week to respond in the best way. Okay, I get that. So you can wait, or maybe what I think is better is send a place marker. Maybe it would be something like, that's unfortunate news. I appreciate what you're saying. I'd like to discuss this further. Let me circle back in a week, a day, whatever it is, whatever you need. And great writers have always talked about this, about the importance of editing and letting something sit, and I think we've all, and I think there's definitely value in that. So sometimes you need to give yourself space to be able to have the best response. I absolutely understand that. What I would suggest is put a place marker on that, respond quickly, give yourself that space, then come back. And I think people will respect that and understand that. Okay, so what have we learned here? Communication is critical, right? And, I also wanted to think about what opportunities you might miss. And I'll put I'll do this very quickly. If you don't respond. So there was a situation where, and I want to be very careful and cautious about that. Okay. And we get this from Carrie, ignoring people. So, okay. Just saw that, Carrie. Yep. So, look, different people have different opinions on this, and I respect that. I understand that. This is just my take on it in business. And I think that there was a situation recently, and I want to make this very abstract as much as I can. So just give me a second on this, where you have friends, you have contacts, maybe they do you a favor, you do them a favor, you give them advice, they give you advice. It was one of those things, and I needed a favor. For whatever reason, it didn't come through at that time. I felt like, hey, I always try to like give more than I get. I think that's just a great way to be in life, right? And I was a little bit disappointed, but it wasn't like, I'm like, okay, whatever, it wasn't a big deal. But then I got busy, and I lost touch with this person just because I'm sure they were busy and I was busy. Well, recently heard from them, and look, we've always been super cool. So it's not like it wasn't, it was fine. It was totally fine. It was just like, we live in different places. I was off the radar. We were off each other's radar screens was the main thing. And just because of the last communication, it wasn't, maybe we were off each other's radar screens a little bit longer. I don't know, right? I mean, who knows, right? And it turns out they just reached out to me, right? And that's also showing the importance of communication. I'll talk about that in another video. That's so important. I mean, you just keeping in touch with people. And then clearly they wanted to talk to me, and we have like our inside jokes and stuff like that. And then so I talked to this person. It turns out that, hey, if I would have talked to them, right? If I would have talked to them maybe over the summer or something like that. Hold on one second. I'll talk about that. Appreciate you, music. I will talk about that. We have Paul who started to do some videos. We're going to start doing some more NBA stuff. Yep. Okay. And so getting back to this real quick, I'm going to wind this one down. I'll do another video later tonight on YouTube. We hadn't talked about it. We haven't talked about because LinkedIn, we only go live once a day. That's really what we want to do, or less, obviously. We hadn't talked in a while, and he told me, he's like, I wish you would have reached out to me last summer, because guess what? Even if I would have if I would have gone over there and helped them out and stuff like that at a position down or two of levels from what I normally would do, let alone I was looking for, maybe something even above, right? I mean, in that industry, this is not counting my level of capability and experience. But he was talking about, there was multiple people, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm fumbling with my words because I'm trying to figure out how to craft this. Let me put it this way. In my opinion, from what I was hearing, it sounded like I probably could have made 20, 25, maybe 30,000. Let's just be conservative. It probably would have been very easy for me to make $25,000 a month for this entire year. Okay, so yeah, I would have had to gone somewhere. I would have had to, my wife would have been here. I mean, maybe the logistics, whatever. But I could have been sitting with another extra hundo plus in my bank right now, right? If I would have picked up the phone. So, you know what I mean? Like, who cares what happened before? And whether I would have taken that or not, whether that was the right thing for my family or not, whatever. I mean, I'm working on all kinds of great things here in South Florida, and there's a lot of great opportunities. There's another potential huge opportunity that just popped up tonight. Actually, two huge opportunities that popped up today. So who knows? That doesn't matter whether I would have taken it or you would have taken it. That doesn't matter. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is, wow, okay, that's in a huge potential opportunity that I didn't know about. And had I picked up the phone and kept the communication open, that could have been on the table. And, things in that business open and close very rapidly, not unlike media and stuff like that. I mean, like you need to be able to move very quickly. Same thing with ventures and startups. So it's just a point. It's just an example of why it's so important to always stay in contact and always, respond to people. Now, in this case, there was there wasn't any of that. And I always, I always practice what I preach, getting the last word and responding to people and stuff like. And again, if you haven't followed the whole videos, I know people come in and out. That doesn't mean being right or anything or that just means being able to having that last response with touching, communication wise having that last response with a customer with, that's a term of art, obviously, for communication or sales, having that last response with a customer or colleague or whatever, last text, last email, phone, whatever it is. And that's it. What have we learned tonight, in my opinion? Always respond. No one's perfect, not always gonna be able to do it, but always try to respond to everyone. And try for yourself to have a no ghosting policy, right? I'm not giving you any advice. Everything you do is your own risk, but I try to have a no ghosting policy. I try to respond to everyone, no matter what. Always. And when in the times where I fall short, and this wasn't a situation where this really falls into another category, but I think it made a good example. Another category, and I'll talk about that in another video, of always keeping the communication open. It's not about that, you've responded, you've talked to them. You're not ghosting anybody, but you always need to talk to people, always need to communicate, because you never know. And you always want to talk to people anyway. I like information. I like to know what people are thinking. I like to know what's going on, right? So listen, I hope this is helpful. I hope this was valuable to you in some way. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Definitely give me the comments. We definitely had some people here. I think it's definitely, hopefully this was useful to you. And I appreciate you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.